You are listening to We Saw the Devil, an investigative and conversational true crime podcast that deep dives into fascinating criminal cases that are solved, unsolved, or ongoing. From America's Lori Vallow to Germany's Armin Meiwes, we examine and discuss the world's most shocking cases. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to follow us online. Check us out at WeSawTheDevil.com and We Saw the Devil on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget, you can become part of the show by backing us on Patreon. Hello everyone, you are listening to We Saw the Devil. This is Robin, and I am here with a very special episode today. Last week I was joined by Rosa Calhoun, the mother of missing woman Kay-Alana Turner. A couple weeks ago, one of my friends sent me a link to the Facebook page called Updates for Kay-Alana Turner, and she said, "Hey Robin, you really need to look into this. There's something going on here." And so I did. I did my due diligence. I reached out to a couple people, I reached out to some resources. I researched it heavily online as well. And guys, it's very rare that I'm like, stop, drop, and roll. Stop everything that you're doing and show this case some love, show this case some attention, get the story out, get the resources, share the links, plaster your socials with it. And I am now coming to you and asking you to do that in this case. One thing that I bring up semi-frequently is the fact that here in the United States, our police perceive most things as a threat. And we have seen time and time again that their response to someone having a mental health crisis goes south very quickly. We've seen some horrible examples of this. I'm not going to get too deep into the case right now because I really want her mother, Rosa, to tell the story. But before we get into it, let's get the quick housekeeping out of the way. You are listening to We Saw the Devil. Our website is WeSawTheDevil.com. From there, you can find all of our social media channels, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I promise I'm getting a TikTok. This case lit a fire under me, and I am not going to stop until I get that done here soon this week. If you have any questions, concerns, you would like more information about this case, if you have a question for Rosa even, if you want to help, if you live in Texas, please do not hesitate to either reach out to the resources provided in the show notes, or you can always email me at info@wesawthedevil.com, and I can get your question routed correctly. As always, if you're enjoying the show, please take just 5 seconds out of your day to leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you're currently listening on. It means the absolute world to us content creators. So this is a raw and unedited interview with Rosa Calhoun, again, the mother of missing woman Kay-Alana Turner. I wanted this to be as raw as possible. I wanted you guys to hear the full story, hear about Kay-Alana. This is a parent's literal worst nightmare, and my heart absolutely bleeds for this family. I'm going to go ahead and play the interview with Rosa now. Rosa, thank you so much for joining me this evening. You have no idea how a friend of mine sent me an article to your Facebook page. I had not heard of this case before. It just devastated me. It pulled at my heartstrings so deeply. And I just had to reach out to see if there was anything that I could do to help get the word out. And thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show to discuss everything that's going on.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being willing to tell Kay-Alana's story. We really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And I hope everyone who's listening right now to this, please share this episode, send it, post on social media, Instagram, Reddit, anywhere you can. Please get the word out of the story. As you will come to learn, you hearing Rosa speak and tell the story, there is a lot going on here, and this is a family that really, really needs your help. So anything that you can do also to assist in getting the word out on this case, please do so. Also, for those of you listening on iTunes or Spotify, in the show notes, I'm going to list all of the resources here for the Facebook page, Texas EquiSearch, basically any resource possible that can help get the word out, copies of the missing posters. So your resource center will be here. And then I'll also put it on our website, WeSawTheDevil.com as well. What I would like, Rosa, is if we could start at the beginning. I want everyone to know you and I had a lovely conversation last week, and you told me all about Kay-Alana, and I want the audience to know her as well. So do you have some time just to tell us about her?
Yes. Kay-Alana, her name is Margaret Kay-Alana Turner. She is the sweetest, the kindest girl. She's so smart. She won $3.68 million in scholarships. She was salutatorian of her class. She was a Lamar University ambassador. She was a McNair scholar. She's just really the kindest, sweetest girl in the whole wide world. Everybody that knows her and loves her is devastated by what is going on right now. Kay-Alana helps everybody. She speaks Spanish and French fluently. And so she's helped families coming in because we're in Texas. She's helped families coming in from Mexico and across the border. She's helped to teach them English. She works with the homeless here in our area. She's just such a sweet, kind girl. She's a musician. She plays multiple instruments. She sings like an angel. She just really is precious and sweet and kind.
She's a very accomplished musician. I saw some of her videos online on Facebook and whatnot, and she's absolutely incredible. And can you talk about when she moved to New York City?
So Kay-Alana's degree, she double majored in business and Spanish with a minor in hospitality. And so in the fall of 2019, she moved to New York City and began working at the Hampton Inn and Suites in Times Square. And she would commute every day. And it was like she lived in Brooklyn, so it was a 3-hour commute daily that she would do when she was going in to work.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was going good. She would call us at like 1 o'clock in the morning, laughing and talking about having ice cream before she would get on the subway to head back home. And she was really enjoying being there. She had planned on going and seeing shows and all kinds of just everything. She was really excited about being in New York City. She loves theater. And so she was really looking forward to having the whole experience of being in New York City. And so she worked through the holidays, and then COVID hit in March, and it shut down so fast in New York City. And I don't think anybody was prepared for what happened with COVID. But with Kay-Alana, her hotel went from being a full hotel to being practically empty. And her company, she was one of the only people that they kept on that wasn't management. And so as everything was happening, Kay-Alana realized that they were going to be on the front lines of this if they were still going to be working in the hotel.
Right.
So she drafted a letter herself to the corporate about protecting their employees. And they were actually one of the first businesses that had put up the plexiglass screens to protect their employees from coming into contact with germs and stuff. And Kay-Alana drafted that letter. So she was really proud of that. She sent her daddy and me the email that she had sent and their response, and she was super proud of that. So as time went on, we could hear it. We could tell that things were really, really scary. She called me and said, "I need a thermometer." And I'm like, "Okay, you can't find one there?" And she's like, "There's no thermometers." And so being down here in Texas, it was a totally different thing. But I thought, no problem. I'm just going to go get a thermometer. Well, I literally spent all day trying to find a thermometer, and I ended up crying when I finally found it at a little pharmacy to send to her. And she had said there was no medicine, there was nothing available up there. So I put together a box that had like cough drops and cough medicine and the thermometer and threw her in some candy bars and stuff.
Oh.
And she needed it for the next day. And so it cost like $118 to mail this box to New York City next day. And so that she could work and keep going to work. And so I sent it, and she was super excited to get it. She's like, "Mom, I can't believe you did it." And I'm like, "If you need something, baby, I'm gonna get it for you." And so she called and was talking about how it was like the apocalypse there. She sent us pictures of the subway with nobody. It was just an open platform with nobody on it. And she would talk
Gosh.
about riding the train, riding the subway, and it was stopping at every stop and the doors were opening and nobody was getting on. And she was the only one on the train, and how terrified she was. And so I sent her a can of wasp spray, and she walked it, and she thought that was crazy. And I said, "Baby, if somebody's coming towards you, you spray them down with the wasp spray." And she said, "Mama, it is illegal to spray somebody with wasp spray." I said, "Baby, if they're coming at you to hurt you," I said, "you spray them down. And when the police get there, you swear to God they were covered with wasp and you were saving their life." I
Yeah.
said, "You have to protect yourself." She was literally the only one on the train. It was her and the conductor. That was it. And he was far away from her.
That must have been so eerie.
Yes, the pictures are super eerie to look at. You would never believe. There's a picture of her standing in the middle of Times Square, and it's just her. It's like the apocalypse has happened. There is no people, no. It's super eerie. And so when she got back to Texas, she told me, she said, "Mama, I carry that wasp spray every day in my bag." So I was thankful for that she knew that she would have to protect herself, and she did carry the wasp spray with her.
And while she was there, she came across the refrigeration trucks, right?
Right.
Yeah.
She lived in Brooklyn, and so she would have to walk down to get to the subway. And so every day she was walking past these refrigerator trucks, and she realized that one of the trucks just had this terrible odor coming from it, and she didn't know what was going on. And then she was on her way to work, and she sees all of these police cars and all this stuff going on, and she finds out later that this truck had lost its refrigeration. And so it was a truck that was just full of bodies, because
Yeah.
COVID hit up there a lot harder than it hit down here. COVID was crazy up there. And so she was literally walking past these trucks full of dead bodies. And she, she was rattled. She was rattled. So at the end of 2020, we kept begging her to come home. "Please come home. Please come home." And she's like, "No, I'm okay. I'm okay." And we were, of course, we were terrified of her being up there, especially she has a heart condition and she has severe asthma. And it was like, if she gets something up there, will she even be able to get into a hospital? Will she even be able to be seen? And so we had real concerns about her health and everything being up there. But she, you know, she's an adult. She just wanted to prove that she could do it, I guess. And so her sister Laren found out that she was pregnant, and when Laren told Kay-Alana that she was pregnant, I believe that changed everything for Kay-Alana. She wanted to come home then because she wanted to be with Laren and wanted to see the baby and everything. But she had already paid, I think they'd paid 6 months of rent up there. And so she wasn't willing to walk away from where she had paid her rent and everything. And she
Right.
was still working and everything. So, and the hotel that she worked in had become the hub of where the first responders, I don't know if you heard about the military that were actually sent up there to take care of patients. Well, she had her whole hotel was full of military first responders. And so she had her and another girl that worked there, they decided to put on an Easter egg hunt for all the soldiers and stuff because she realized they're away from their families, they're homesick too, and
dealing with constant trauma.
And so they had put together a little Easter egg hunt. And so even then she was thinking of other people and their what they might need to help them get through it. So she finally decided to come home. We were so thankful when she made the decision to come home. And so Ryder was born in December, at the end of December, and she began to work to try to get home and didn't make it home until April of 2021. So when she came home, we noticed that she was super jumpy. Like everything would make her jump, and she was shaking all the time. And she wouldn't even, in the house, she would wear her face mask all the time. And we kept trying to tell her, baby, it's safe here. And she's like, Mama, it's not safe. It's not safe. She wouldn't go anywhere without that face mask. And it took months and months and months for her to stop wearing her face mask just in the house.
Oh.
And with Lauren and with Ryder and with the family. It was scary to watch, but the worst part was the shaking that she just constantly shook, and everything made her jump. And we just tried to love her through that. You know, we just wanted her to get well. We could tell that it had weighed on her.
How long was she home before she decided to seek mental health assistance?
So she was home several months in 2021, and in the part of 2026, she was just seeing a psychiatrist, and she was just like talking with him and stuff like that. And then she lost her insurance, and we're not sure how she lost her insurance, but we were concerned about it, and we were like, if you had told us, we would have helped to do that. But so she didn't have insurance. So I think she was seeing that psychiatrist, and it was a lady, because I went with her to several of those appointments, and she wasn't on medication then. She was just like going and talking to this lady. But in January of this year, she started seeing a psychiatrist over in the Houston area, and he prescribed her Ritalin and Zoloft, and he prescribed that. The first prescription was from the 17th of January. So, and they were giving her 50 milligrams of Zoloft and 20 milligrams of Ritalin. And so she had said, I'm not doing well with this. And our family has a problem with medications. We literally have bad reactions to taking medications. And so she let the doctor know, well, instead of him saying, you know what, maybe we should back off of this medication, he doubled down. And so her next prescription that she got from him was on the 20th of February. And that prescription was 100 milligrams of Zoloft. Now, bear in mind, Kay-Alana only weighs about 100 pounds. She's tiny. And she started taking that medication on the 20th or the 21st of March. Of February. We're not sure exactly what date she started the 100 milligrams. But from what we understand, it takes 2 weeks for that medication to reach its full dose. So February is a short month. There's 8 days. So she had about 8 days for the 28th. And then she went missing on the 10th. Her incident happened on the 10th. So you're talking 18 days.
Yeah.
And she had spent on March the 9th she actually went and stayed with Brittany on March the 8th and March the 9th. Brittany is her best friend and has been her best friend. And she told Brittany, she said, I haven't been sleeping. This medication, it's so much, and I'm not sleeping. And Brittany's like, well, you need to sleep. And so on the morning of the 9th, Brittany got up to go to work, and she went to the bedroom door where Kay sleeps and knocked on the door, and Kay didn't answer her. And so Brittany just went ahead and went to work, and she was like, thank God she went to sleep, you know?
Now, up until this point, had either you, her sister, Brittany, had anyone noticed any kind of behavioral changes on their own organically, or just that Kay-Alana said that she hadn't been sleeping?
So Kay-Alana, because of her heart condition, Kay-Alana sleeps weird. When she's having an issue with her heart, she will sleep like for days, and you can't wake her up. She just has to get through it. But Laren had FaceTimed with Kay-Alana on Monday before she went missing, and Laren said, Kay was so happy, Mama. She was telling me how much she loved James. And Kay-Alana has the sweetest, kindest boyfriend. We credit him with healing Kay after she came back from New York, because he was so gentle and so kind.
Oh.
And so loving and soft spoken. And we just watched him over and over again calm her. And we just think the world of him. We love him. And I remember her coming one day, and she's like, Mama, there's this guy. And that was really funny for her to say that. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, do you like him? And she's like, yeah, I like him. And I said, well, does he like you? And she said, yeah, I think he does. And that was James. And we could see that she was healing. We could see, because she had not wanted anybody near her as she was trying to recover from the New York thing. And so for her to open up and let James in just was a wonderful thing. And we just kind of watched their little love blossom, and how much they cared for one another. She had come one time, I do cake decorating, and she'd come one time and she said, James loves cameras, and I want to make a cake that matches his camera. And so we worked all day trying to make this cake look like a camera, like his camera and everything. And she just loved to do things that were out of the box for people that she cared about and people that she loved. And so Laren said that the talk on that Monday was just the happiest talk, and she was talking to the babies and just being Aunt KK. And so Laren really didn't notice anything. And I had talked to Kay the week before. Kay would come and go here, but we had got her a key for our house because she had lost her key. So we got her a key for our house that had cherries on it, and she was super excited. And I said, okay, we're going to hang it right here by the door. So when you come, you'll see it when you leave. And that cherry key is still hanging, waiting on Kay-Alana to come get her key for our house. So that key is still there, and it will stay there until she comes home to get it. But she is super excited about having a key with cherries on it for the house. But so Brittany said that morning she didn't wake up, or she thought she was sleeping. And so Brittany went to work, and Brittany got a text from Kay-Alana that evening, and the text said, no help. And Brittany started trying to call Kay-Alana and try to find out what's going on. And she's calling and she's calling. And Brittany and Kay kind of share a phone plan. And so Brittany and Kay also have like trackers where they always know where the other one is.
Yeah.
And so Brittany couldn't find Kay with the tracker. And so finally either Kay called Brittany back or Brittany got a hold of Kay. And Kay said, I'm okay. I'm just driving around. And so Brittany called James and said, hey, can you go drive around Beaumont? We live in the Beaumont area. She said, can you go drive around Beaumont and see if you can find Kay-Alana? She said, she's just driving around. And so James went right away and started driving around looking for Kay-Alana, and he was out till 2 a.m. and couldn't find her. So the next morning, and come to find out, Brittany had checked her Ring camera and had video of Kay, and she was acting very strange. And so Brittany called me the next morning, March the 10th, right about 10 o'clock, and she was panicked. And Brittany does not panic. Brittany is so calm. And she said, there's something wrong with Kay-Alana. I can't find her, and her tracker is turned off, and I can't find her, and I'm scared that something has happened. And so she told me that James has drove around and looked for her. So I take off work. I call my husband and tell him what's going on. And he says, maybe Kay-Alana decided to go to South by Southwest, which is in Austin. And it was going to start that weekend. And last year, she actually made it into Willie Nelson's VIP party and several other VIP parties at South by Southwest last year and had a great time. And so I called Brittany back and I said, can you call y'all's friend in Austin and see if maybe Kay-Alana went to Austin? And so Brittany calls and he says, Kay-Alana called me and said her phone was at 3%, that she was in Hockley, Texas, but that she was coming to Austin. And so by this time, I'm already in Beaumont looking for Kay when Brittany calls me and tells me that. So I just head straight to my husband's work and tell him what's going on. And he takes off work. And so we head towards Hockley, Texas. And so, of course, me and Brittany are talking back and forth, and Brittany's saying, I'm filing a missing persons report. And I'm like, okay. So Hardin County, which is the county that we live in, told her that they needed to meet her at her house. And so Brittany is meeting Hardin County at her house, the Hardin County Sheriff's Department. Me and my husband, Kay-Alana's daddy, are on our way to Hockley, Texas. Never heard of Hockley, don't know anything about Hockley. I put it in GPS and we're headed that way. But meantime, I called the friend in Austin and I say, hey, what do you know? What did Kay say? And so he tells me that he called the Harris County Sheriff's Department and they said they were looking for Kay-Alana. None of that made any sense to us. We didn't understand that. That just didn't make any sense. And so I got on the phone and I called the Austin Police Department and asked them to please go do a well check on Kay-Alana. And we're driving. It's a 2.5-hour drive from our house to Hockley, Texas. So we're driving to get there. And the whole time I'm sending the information for Kay's car. Brittany and James had come on from work and he was going through all the paperwork, finding all the information on Kay-Alana's car, the registration and everything. I'm sending pictures to the police officer in Austin. I'm sending Kay-Alana's checkbook information. I'm sending everything I can get my hands on to this police officer in Austin. And she's messaging back and forth with me. She's like, I'm 3 minutes from the address. I'm this, I'm that. And then just as we get to Hockley, Texas, and we get there between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, I guess, we get to Hockley in the morning. So it was like early afternoon. So 12:30 after like lunchtime. So we had just got to Hockley and my phone rings and it's the Austin police officer. And she said, what he said was true. Harris County is looking for her. they had a helicopter and a dog, and they were looking for her. And none of that made sense to me. And the lady said, good luck. And she said, I hate to tell you this. And I said, thank you. Thank you for going and looking. And so I hung up with her and immediately called the Harris County Sheriff's Department and trying to get through. And, you know, you have to wait and you have to wait. And finally they get me through to an officer. And this officer, the first thing he asked me is your daughter homeless? And I said, no, sir, she is not homeless. And he said, well, her car was full of bags of clothes. And I said, yes, sir, she had rented a house. And the first night she stayed there, it had bed bugs. And she spent 6 weeks fighting the bed bugs. And she has a little vintage clothing business. And she had to take all of her vintage clothing to the laundromat to wash. And that is why her car was full of bags of clothes, because she had taken her clothes, her vintage clothes, to the laundromat and washed them.
On that initial phone call, when you spoke with police, would you say that they treated you with an air of hostility right off of the bat?
Right off the bat. Then he said, your daughter's a drug addict, right? And I said, no, sir, she is not. She doesn't use drugs at all. And so I tried to tell him about the doctor changing her medication and everything. He didn't want to listen. And so he just gave us the address because we asked, can you meet with us? And he's like, I'm getting off work. So he wasn't even willing to come where all of this happened at. And I don't know if he was the officer involved or not. He's just the officer that they sent me to talk to.
And at that point, you didn't even know what had transpired. You had no idea what had transpired.
Well, he told us that they had chased her, that she had done property damage, and that she was going to be going to jail for a long time. That, you know, and here I am thinking she must have ran through somebody's house. She must have really done something, you know, and we couldn't figure it out because none of this made sense. None of this made sense, you know, and he was so rude and so unkind to us, but he gave us the address where it had happened at, and he told us that Kay-Alana's car had been impounded. And so we head towards this address, and we get there, and the man that it was his house, he's outside, and so my husband, we're trying to talk to him and everything. And the man's like, oh, well, her car's still out there in the woods. And Robbie said, well, they told us they impounded. He's like, no, it's still out there. Do you want to go see it? And Robbie, of course, said, yeah, we want to see it. And so the lady of the house at that point had come out. And so while my husband and the man walked across the pasture to Kay-Alana's car, the lady comes out and she begins to tell me that she wants to know why my daughter was in their neighborhood. And I said, I have no idea. I'm just assuming she got lost. And she said, well, the house next door to us is an Airbnb, and those people that are there right now are drug dealers. And your daughter was here to get drugs. And I said, no, ma'am, she was not. And she said, yes, she was. She was here to get drugs. And the police told me that your daughter is a homeless drug addict. And I said, that is not true. Well, come to find out, the lady had already found out who my daughter's insurance company was and had already filed a claim with Kay-Alana's insurance company, had already filed a claim. What homeless drug addict has insurance on their car that you're able to file a claim within minutes of something happening? You know, and that lady has been paid. That claim has been paid. And so, in a little bit, you know, I'm just trying to defend Kay-Alana against the attack of this lady believing that and I'm just like, none of this is true. None of this is true. And she tells me that you don't know your daughter. And I said, yes, ma'am, I know my daughter. You know, like I have to defend myself and my daughter against this horrible lie. And so by this point, the lady has told me about the helicopter and the dog, that the police had been there, and that she woke up at 5:25 in the morning and she looked out and she realized there was a car parked in her driveway, and she went out and tried to wake Kay-Alana up. couldn't wake her up. Apparently they called the HOA president and the people, and so he had come down and he had blocked the cul-de-sac, and they had called a constable. Now, none of that is in the police report. That is just what the people in the neighborhood told us, and they told us that Kay-Alana was awakened and she tried to move her car, and when she got down to where the cul-de-sac, where they had blocked the cul-de-sac, they began taking pictures of her. She's in her car. She's been startled awake, and somebody is taking pictures of you and screaming at you. And I'm sure the camera was flashing. It was still dark. And so she moves her car and comes back, and the only driveway, all the other houses are gated, and the only driveway that's not gated is this lady's driveway, and she pulls back in it, and she's sitting in her car. She's sitting in her car. And at some point, the police show up, and the officer tries to get in the car, and Kay-Alana starts locking the door. And at that point, we find out that the police officer busted her window open because she was locking her door. She had no idea who was trying to get in her car. She just knew that there were people taking pictures of her. There were people screaming at her. There were people just acting erratic, and she was in some kind of mental crisis. And based on the pictures that were taken, because they gave those pictures to us, we know that she was at a cardiac event. Her lips were completely blue. Her lips were blue. She was in a cardiac event. And these people didn't recognize that because they had already labeled her a homeless drug addict, And so her window was busted open. We had no idea that they had used a 2x4 to bust her window open. And we found that out later in the police report. Right. Imagine you've got people taking pictures of you. You've got people trying to get in your car. You've got somebody pick up a 2x4 and bust your window out. So she drove her car through like a picket fence and down a little alleyway, because this is all rural, down the alleyway into the neighbor's yard. He had an outbuilding, and that neighbor said, I don't know how she did it, but she didn't hit my building, and then out through his fence, across a pasture. She didn't hit anything but another fence. So at this point, she's hit 3 fences. That's it. She drives her car until she bogs it down in the woods. She gets out of her car and runs for her life. Well, when her daddy comes back up, he's carrying her purse. He's carrying her little overnight bag, and her shoes are in the overnight bag. And he said he found her shoes beside the car, and they were full of glass. And he dumped the glass out of them. He followed the way they told him that she went. He found a log, and he went across the log, and on the other side of the log, he found her bare footprint. So he knows that she made it across Spring Creek.
And how long did you and your husband show up at the location after she went into the woods? How long after?
I think all of this was happening like at 7 in the morning. We were there within 4 or 5 hours. We're not exactly sure what their timeline was, but by the time we were out there was nobody out there looking for her.
Did the police attempt to follow her at all when she drove away? Did the police even attempt?
They did not. In fact, the people in the neighborhood said they had to urge the police to go, and they're like, well, she's not going anywhere. So finally, one of the men in the neighborhood said she was never going more than 3 or 4 miles an hour. He said if they had walked at a jaunt, they would have passed the car up.
Oh my God.
Literally. So they didn't go after the car. And when they finally did, when they got to like one of the fences, and it was like a circus out there, I'm sure. And when they got to one of the fences, the guy stopped, and the man in the neighborhood said, we had to urge him on. And he's like, well, I'm not sure if I can do this. And he said, you're the police. You're following a fugitive. I'm pretty sure you can do this. And so the cops went on, and they went down to the car, And we have a video which the people in the neighborhood took video of them holding a gun on her car, like limp wristed, just like willy nilly, and then swinging around towards the woods with this gun held limp wristed in his hands. I believe that Kay-Alana had been in that car, he would have shot and killed her that minute. So did they go in the woods then? They were down there within, maybe 10 minutes after she got out of her car, if it was that long for them to walk down there, because he said they literally had to make them go. So then instead of going and looking for her, now bear in mind, Kay-Alana is barefoot, and they know she's barefoot because her shoes are beside the car. She's in a long hot pink dress, hot pink. Nothing is going to stand out in the woods like hot pink. And so they don't go. Instead, they decide to call for a helicopter and a dog. It takes 45 minutes for that to get to them and for the other police to get to them, I guess. I'm not sure what happened. But did they call Montgomery County? Because when she went across that log, she was no longer in Harris County. She was in Montgomery County. Did they call Montgomery County? They did not. They waited 3 hours to call Montgomery County to say, hey, we got a fugitive on the loose. We think she's dangerous. Did they call the little school down the road and say, hey, put your school on lockdown. We got a dangerous person out here. They did not. None of that happened. Did they call the people in the neighborhoods? Did they get on the neighborhood pages and say, hey, guys, we need to let you know there's something dangerous going on out here. You need to get in your house. You need to lock your doors. You need to stay in place. They did not. And so we actually talked to the officer that took the call from Montgomery County. And he said, we have no idea why they didn't call us. But I can tell you this. Had they called Montgomery County and Montgomery County been out on that road that morning, Kay-Alana would have run with all her might to get to that police car and to tell them, please help me. Somebody is chasing me. Somebody busted my window out. She would have told them that because Kay-Alana has grown up surrounded by police officers. She had no reason to be scared of a police officer. She had no cause to even question a police officer. Her uncle is a police officer. She has actually two great uncles. She has one that was a Vernon Parish Sheriff's deputy. She has another one that was a Leesville police chief.
Mm-hmm.
She house sits for a state trooper, a retired state trooper. She has several classmates that are police officers. She had no reason to run from police, but she had reason to run from people that were attacking her.
Right.
She had to be scared for her life. And I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she ran like that because we know she was in a cardiac event. I've seen her in that same cardiac event. I've seen what happens to her. She has no strength. And bear in mind that she hadn't slept in probably 3 or 4 days. And that's probably why she was in a cardiac event.
Can you describe the wooded area that she went into as well? I'm going to post pictures of it on our socials as well so people can visualize it.
It is just dense. It is just thick, heavy woods. There's, it's just bramble and stuff. And so when the people gave us the address of where they thought she came out on Decker Prairie Roseville Road, me and my husband headed over there, and the lady at that house was so kind and so generous to us. And she allowed us on her property. And literally, I am climbing through the bramble, and I'm screaming Kay-Alana's name, and I'm calling out for her. And I am not dressed for this. I'm wearing shorts and tennis shoes, short sleeve shirt, and I'm just out there crawling through this bramble, screaming Kay-Alana's name, just looking for anything that would possibly lead me to her. And this lady lets us search her barns and search all of her outbuildings. She's just super kind. Well, in the meantime, our pastor, he had pastored church in that area. And so one of the men in his church worked for Texas EquiSearch. And so he had got on the phone and called this friend that worked at Texas EquiSearch. So he began to contact us, and we told him what was going on. And he said, okay. He said, y'all need to file a missing persons report. Well, we had just got a call from Hardin County saying that they had canceled the missing persons report in Hardin County because she had been spotted in Harris County. So they canceled that missing persons report. We'll come to find out they were not supposed to cancel that missing persons report, but they did. And so he said, y'all need to file another missing persons report. And so we head back over. I called Harris County Sheriff's Department, and they said, okay, well, you have to go back to the place where she went missing at. So I texted that lady. I said, we're going to be out on the street in front of your house. You know, we didn't bother them other than me texting to let her know what we were doing. And by this time, Kay-Alana's best friend, Brittany, and her husband had got there. And so we're waiting and waiting and waiting for the police to come. And all the people in the neighborhood are coming out to talk to us. And we're trying to figure out, you know, we're trying to ask what's going on. They're all telling us their story of what they saw and what happened that morning. And so I walk up to this man and I say, hi, I'm Rosa Calhoun and my daughter. And he said, I Googled your lovely daughter. I think there's been a horrible mistake. So already, like within just a very short time of doing this, he had Googled my lovely daughter and he knew that there had been a horrible mistake. The Harris County Sheriff's Department didn't care that there was a horrible mistake. So we're waiting on the sheriff's deputy to come so we can file the missing persons. And he gets there and we're telling him, because we had Kay-Alana's purse and we had her driver's license, we had everything. I mean, right. She literally had nothing. And they'd already told us that the police had her phone, and the police had asked us, you know, do you know the code to get in her phone? We'll come to find out they wanted that so that they could see if she was there to get drugs. I don't know what they were thinking, you know, but her phone was dead. So we're like telling this officer, we're showing him the medicine, we're telling him everything, and he's telling us that, you know, we can file this missing persons report, but once these warrants, he said, we're filing warrants against her. He said, once these warrants go into effect, you will no longer have a missing person. And so we just keep telling everything I'm telling him about Kay-Alana's heart condition. I'm showing him, you know, everything that I have to tell him. And I'm asking him, I'm like, if y'all find, will y'all take her straight to the hospital? He's like, we will take her to the jail and we will evaluate her there. She will not be going to the hospital. She will be about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're telling me that she is in serious need of medical attention and you guys are not going to take her to the hospital? Y'all are going to take her to jail? And I was beside myself, just trying to understand this. Well, then he starts talking to my husband about the car, and my husband said, it's down there in the woods. And so he said, well, I'd like to see her car. And so that police officer, that sheriff's deputy, walks down with us to the car, and we're walking across the pasture. And I grew up on a farm, and I was used to driving cars in a pasture. And I know you cannot drive fast across a pasture. You'll tear your car up. Right. And especially her car, it was a little car. It wasn't some 4-wheel drive car. It was just a regular car. And so he's walking down there with us, and he's like, how did they not catch her? How did they not catch her? And we get down there to the car, and I take a picture of the car and everything. And I've tracked how far, I have a walk app, and I've tracked, and it was 0.46 down back from the car back up to the house. So she wasn't even quite a half mile down into the woods. So
that's not far at all.
No. But they never saw her. From the minute she drove through that last fence, they never saw her again. They didn't see her get out of the car, nothing. And they didn't look for her until the dog and the helicopter got there. How far? Now, I walk 5 miles a day, and I can do 3.5 miles in 45 minutes. I can do that. How far could she have got in 45 minutes, scared out of her brain, running for her life, thinking that she was attacked by who knows what? How far can you get down the road?
And that's what I want the listeners right now to realize, is that after this transpired at the home, and then she drove through the fence into the pasture, into the woods, police showed up 10 minutes or so later at the urging of neighbors, because police did not want to respond on their own accord.
They didn't want to follow the car. Yeah, they didn't want to follow the car down because they thought she had nowhere to go. They had no idea how frightened and how scared she was. I mean, she had to have been out of her mind. And so when they got down to the car, they didn't start. They just waited. They probably turned around and walked back up to the house. I don't know. They just waited for the helicopter and the dog to arrive 45 minutes later. And they didn't send a car to the other side of the road because that was Montgomery County. So there wasn't even an officer on that other road looking for her. There was nobody on that other road actively looking for her. It was like at rush hour in the morning, people trying to get back and forth to work. Now, we have been out on that road. We have passed out probably 25,000 flyers since this started. And we have stood out there on Decker Prairie, Rose Hill Road, and Coy Loop and looked for her. We have walked every single neighborhood out there. We have gave flyers to anybody that would take them. And we stood at that corner and we passed out flyers, and nobody saw her that morning. Nobody. How is that possible that a girl in a hot pink dress, barefooted, running for her life, was not spotted by one single person? How is that possible? And the only way, because there are people that don't do social media, there are people that don't see anything, and we haven't been able to get any help because that next morning on the 11th, Robbie called the man with EquiSearch and let him know on that night, on the night of the 10th. So on the 11th, he met us out there on Decker Prairie, Rose Hill Road at 7:00 in the morning. And we met with him and we're telling him what's going on. And he says that once those warrants go into effect, he will not be able to do anything, but he's got a small group coming to search for her. And so they had 6 hours on the morning after she went missing on the 11th, where they were able to search those woods for her. And they did what they call mowing the lawn, where they go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. He said in that little area, they probably did more than 200 miles because they were walking every single inch of it, trying to find anything to say that she had been there. Looking for a scrap from her dress, just anything. And they also came to the conclusion that she must have made it to that road. And she must have made it to Decker Prairie, Rose Hill Road.
And for our listeners who are unaware, Texas EquiSearch is an incredible group. It's run by a man named Tim Miller. I know that a lot of my listeners watch a lot of Netflix documentaries. His daughter, her murder was covered in the Netflix documentary, The Texas Killing Fields, for those of you listening. I know that a lot of you have seen it, but Texas EquiSearch is an incredible group.
They are. Within 6 hours of them starting their search, they called to let us know that they were out. Now, bear in mind, while they were doing that, we were in downtown Tomball. We had got flyers printed up, and on these flyers, we had put the Harris County Sheriff's Department number because we were working with them. We needed them to help us find our daughter. So we put their number on her flyers, and we were passing out flyers, and we were doing everything we could think of to help her and to help them to find her, because we needed to get everything straight with this. We needed it to be fixed. Well, so that night we were going to every hospital. We were going to every homeless place. We were going everywhere with these flyers. So I end up at a hospital, and there's a Harris County Sheriff's deputy there, and I attempt to hand him one of Kay's flyers with the Harris County Sheriff's Department phone number on it. And when I do, he puts his hands behind his back and he tells me, your daughter is not missing. She is a fugitive. And I told him, I'm like, we know nobody here. We're not from here. We don't know anybody here. How can you say that? I'm like, well, you just take the flyer. And he's like, I know all about your daughter. And I was like, I was devastated to see the person that was supposed to help us and supposed to help people put his hands behind his back and refuse to take a missing person flyer. And so at that point, we knew that Harris County was not there to help us. They had no intention of helping us. And he told us, he's like, if we see her, we're going to arrest her. And so I'm like, please don't tase her. If you tase her, she'll have a heart attack. I'm like, she has a heart condition. I'm like, please don't shoot her. You know, I'm just devastated. So at that point, we know we will get no help from Harris County Sheriff's Department. So from then on, every single flyer that we printed had my phone number on it. And so then Texas EquiSearch tells us they're out. They can no longer help us, that those warrants are in effect. And so for us, we decide, okay, the only thing we can do is get them to drop these warrants so that we can have help to search for our daughter. Because at this point, I've called TV stations. I've done everything I can to try to get her on the news so that I can get people to see who she is. So I have more eyes looking for her. I mean, there were 7 of us looking for her, you know, at that point. And so we can get no help because she's not a missing person. She's a fugitive. And I was told that more times than I would have ever dreamed. I could have been told that by people that were supposed to be there to take care of her, but they didn't care. And so my niece, Brienne, my nephew, Danny Lee, my sister, Blanche, we had friends come. We had everybody. We just put out the call and said, we have to have help. We can't do this by ourselves. And our van ended up breaking down and we were like on foot. And so our friends came and drove us around while the car was being repaired. We drove everywhere. Anytime there was someone would call and say, oh, I think I saw a girl here, or I think I saw a girl there, we would run. And so Brittany and Brienne made the updates for Kay-Alana Turner page to help get tips. Well, through that, you know, we were just begging people, call the Sheriff's Department, ask them to drop the warrants. We had called our church and said, call the Harris County Sheriff's Department, ask them to drop the warrants. And so Kay-Alana had a missing persons detective that was involved until those warrants came into place. And so he was actually talking to Robbie like every day. And he said, y'all are killing us. You need to tell your friends that they're not going to drop these warrants. These warrants are here to stay. You need to tell them to quit calling. And Robbie said, I'm not telling the little ladies of our church to quit calling. I swear the little ladies in our church Sunday school classes, they didn't have anything better to do than to call the Harris County Sheriff's Department and say, drop the warrant against Kay-Alana Turner. And there were probably thousands of phone calls that were made saying, drop this warrant, please drop this warrant. And I had called the DA's office to try to get help. And the lady at the DA's office to answer the phone, she said, we are going to prosecute your daughter to the fullest. We are not here to help you. We are here to see that your daughter is prosecuted.
Now, at this point, had the police reports changed? I know that the police reports have changed, and I think this is a very important fact, particularly in this case, is that the police reports were changed for that initial interaction, correct?
Well, because Brittany was like everything that was coming up, Brittany was capturing it. So that's how we found out that they had busted the window out with a 2x4. And so then it became a stick. Then I think it became a tool of convenience. And now, I mean, we can't get anything now. Everything that you get is completely redacted. But Brittany was so quick to get everything that came up. And she was, I don't know how she did it, because she was in school and she had finals and but she loves Kay. They're like sisters. And she was getting everything she could. And she was on the Updates for Kay-Alana Turner page. And so this retired police officer starts saying, you know, Brittany is writing what's happening in real time. You know, we can't get these warrants dropped. We can't get the missing person. We can't. And this guy is contacting and saying, this is a lie and blah, blah, blah. And Brittany messages him personally through the page. And she says, this is all true. And he says, I am a retired Harris County Sheriff's deputy, and I worked in the warrants department, and you can have a missing person and a warrant running side by side. And Brittany said, they have told us no. And Brittany has told them that they have set an $80,000 bond for Kay-Alana. And he's like, murderers don't have an $80,000 bond. But Brittany had captured everything. And so he is sending him all this information. And he tells her, he said, this is untrue. You can have a missing person and a warrant. And he tells her what to do. Well, in the meantime, we've figured out that we need to file a complaint. Everybody is saying, you need to file a complaint. You need to file a complaint. We have a friend that we were the youth group leaders at our church, and he's a lawyer in New York City. And so he's like, y'all need to file a complaint. Y'all need to do this. And so we're like, okay. So Brittany meets us, and Robbie and I head down to file a complaint at Internal Affairs. Well, we're sitting there, we're filling out the paperwork, and the officer comes out and he says, oh, only one of y'all needs to fill out the complaint. I don't need one from all of y'all. And so Robbie heads back with the officer to fill out the complaint. And Brittany says, hey, let's go try to see if we can get the missing persons reinstated. So we head to the address that the man had given Brittany, and we get down there and they're telling us no. And Brittany, every time they would say no, and Brittany would say this, and they would say no. And Brittany would say, well, he told me this. And finally they said, well, you need to go to this building. Now, we had no idea what building they were sending us to, but we get there and the officer there that's behind the desk, we're talking to her, and she said, you do realize that you're at the Harris County Sheriff Jail. You're at the wrong place. And Brittany said, this is where they sent us. There is somebody here that we are supposed to talk to. And the lady's like, no. And Brittany just kept going. She was not taking no for an answer. And so finally, I guess she wore the lady down and she said, hold on. And so this officer comes out of the back and he looks at us and he says, I do not know why y'all are here. This is the jail. And Brittany said, they told us that this is where we had to come. And so we're here and we're going to talk to you and we're going to tell you our story. And we began to tell him. And he said, well, I did used to work in the warrants division, but I'm working here now. So he got on the phone and he started calling people. And he would come back and he would say, well, that one was in court, or this one was here and that one was there. And the whole time, every time they try to change something, we keep telling him, you know, I'm telling him, they busted her window out with a 2x4. They attacked her. She was in a medical emergency and they ignored that, you know. And so we're fighting to get that. And after about 2.5 hours, this officer comes out and he's holding a piece of paper and he hands it to us and he says, you've got your missing persons reinstated. And me and Brittany just broke down and cried because we couldn't believe it. And so about that time, we're trying to get a hold of Robbie, and he calls and we tell him, and he's headed towards us. And so we end up meeting at a Whataburger. And so we get there and we tell him, and we show him the paper, and he calls Kay-Alana's missing persons detective that he'd been dealing with. And the detective says, well, hold on. And so a little while he says, send me a picture. And so we sent him a picture. Well, in the meantime, we had got a call that there was a possible sighting in Conroe. And so we jump in the van and head towards Conroe. And Brittany had to head back to do something with schoolwork. Now, bear in mind, this is 15 days after Kay-Alana went missing. And we get to Conroe and had just pulled into like a McDonald's to map out where this lady was supposedly seen at. And Robbie's phone rings, and it's the missing persons detective. And he said, "You got your missing person. They've reinstated it."
Oh, thank
and
goodness.
we're beside ourselves. We're just so excited because we're like, we're going to get help now. There's help coming. We'll be able to get the news. We'll be able to get people to help us. So we call Texas Equisearch and let them know. We start calling news stations to let them know while we're driving around Conroe looking for this person that was possibly sighted that could have been Kay-Alana. And so at this point, we have been in the Tomball, Texas area, passing out flyers for 15 days. We haven't left. We're just there. That has become our home. And when I tell you that the people of Tomball, Texas are the kindest, the sweetest, the most wonderful people in the whole wide world, it is the truth. Those people have worked so hard to help us. We have made lifelong friends in Tomball, Texas, a town that on March the 10th, we thought we were coming to find our daughter, put gas in her car, and get her home, you know. And these people have stood beside us for 125 days to help us look for our daughter.
I'm so glad that you were able to find kindness in that area, because you certainly did not get it right off the bat.
We did not. So we're continuing what we're doing. We're passing out flyers. We're talking to people. We literally have started living in the office depot parking lot because we're printing flyers up so much. Our friends have come to help pass out flyers, and the people at Office Depot were amazing. And so they were helping us. We're out there in the parking lot getting stuff. And so Channel 2 News finally comes to do a story about her. And we're trying to get a story done in our hometown. You know, Kay-Alana was the spokesperson for Make Music Beaumont. These people in Beaumont know Kay-Alana, and we can't get her story told in Beaumont with people who know her. And so come to find out, you know, Harris County, the only thing that they would let out was that she had run from the police and that she was a fugitive. And there was no innocent until proven guilty. She is guilty. And they literally prevented us from getting any coverage for her through any media sites. Literally. That was 15. And then I'm going to tell you, we've had Gabby Hart with Fox 26 has been amazing. We were even hesitant. She does a program called The Missing, and we were hesitant to even tell her. And she said, I do stories about drug addicts that are missing. She's like, you do not have to hide the truth. And we have not hid the truth from anybody. We have no pride. We have no shame. We are sharing everything with anybody that will listen. And so because we realized we were getting no help from them through the media from Harris County, I mean, literally nothing from them. And so Brittany had realized that Harris County had a top 20 fugitives list, and Kay-Alana wasn't on that list. You know, that would have at least had her in the media, maybe. And so we questioned why, you know, if she is such a bad person that y'all have labeled her, why is she not on your top 20 fugitive list? You have an $80,000 bond on her. You don't even have murderers don't have an $80,000 bond here in Harris County, you know. And so we're like, why isn't Crime Stoppers involved? And Kay-Alana's lawyer had said, you know, if they're not going to drop these charges, you have to use that You have to use the fact that they see her as a fugitive as a way to bring coverage to her. And so we were literally fighting. And the lady that does the Crime Stoppers flyer and stuff, she's talking to me and she's telling me she does not want to do this flyer. And I said, you have to do this flyer. You have to do this flyer because we're getting no coverage. And if you don't do this flyer, then that's an opportunity that we're missing to get coverage for Kay-Alana. It's crazy. And she's like, why? I just really don't want to do this with her. I know that she is not this person. And I said, we have no pride. We have no shame. You have to do this. You know, when the people that are in charge of stuff like that don't want to do it because they know it's a lie. They know that she is not this dangerous fugitive that they've made her out to be. And we are just any shred of help that we can get, we are grasping at. So once we got the missing person reinstated, then we thought that Texas EquiSearch would be able to come back on and help us.
Right.
But they were not, because they still had the fugitive warrant. So we have been fighting all this time. We have been, and by Harris County Sheriff's Department's own admission, we have begged to meet with Ed Gonzalez, who is the Harris County Sheriff. He's refusing to meet with us. I have talked to 3 levels in the missing persons department. And I told Ed Gonzalez's secretary, I said, I don't want to speak to the missing persons department. I want to speak to Ed Gonzalez. He needs to know what's going on. You know, he doesn't even know if Kay-Alana was standing in front of him, he wouldn't know who she was.
That's so
disturbing.
I
want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have no idea who she is. But we are fighting. We are fighting every single day to find her. I am doing everything I can. Some lady, we were out there passing out flyers and talking to people, and some lady said, hey, can I do a TikTok? I've never even watched a TikTok. I had no idea what a TikTok was, but I'm like, if you're willing to tell my daughter's story, I'm willing to do a TikTok. And she said it had like 1 million views on it, you know, and then she came and did another TikTok with me. Robbie's cousin did a TikTok. There's been several of Kay-Alana's friends that have done TikToks. I still do not know what a TikTok is, but there are people doing that. I've told people I will talk to anybody that will talk to me to tell Kay-Alana's story. I will talk to anybody. We literally had to fight to get her in one of the little papers here, the Examiner here in Beaumont. And when they finally, it was more than a month of me talking to them before they would publish a story with Kay-Alana in it. And then when they did it, they put a picture of my other daughter on the cover. They didn't even check with us to make sure they had the right pictures of people.
Oh my God.
So it's been just a mess and a half as we've tried to traverse this that we're going through.
I'm so sorry that you're going through all of this and the way that you've been treated from the very, 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 very beginning of this. And this is absolutely every parent's worst nightmare that you are currently living. And my heart absolutely goes out to you. And when, like I said initially, when one of my friends sent me the link to the Facebook group and the updates, you know, my undergraduate degree is in French. I did a study abroad. I've traveled extensively and I play music as well. And I live here in Nashville. I know Kay-Alana came to Nashville a couple times as well. Had friends here, I believe.
Yes. Two of her really good friends are there, and she was doing voice lessons with one of them. And so, yeah, we're at a loss to the fact that how could they see a girl with blue lips and bust her window out with a 2x4? How could they look at a woman? And that's not the only thing. That morning, in the early morning hours, she had been at another home. She'd actually been at 2 homes. At one home, she'd pulled in and asked if she could sleep in their driveway. And the boy, there was a young man outside, and he said, I have to ask my dad. And when the dad and mom came out, Kay-Alana was backing out of their driveway. Then she ended up in another driveway at another house. She was out of the car. She was knocking on their door. She was singing and saying, I love you. And just, it was terrifying to see this video. And that lady called for help to the Harris County Sheriff's Department. And she told them that this girl is not drunk. This girl is not on drugs. She is having a serious mental breakdown. Y'all need to get here. Did they show up? They did not. So Harris County Sheriff's Department, the dispatchers, when they got the call about a girl sleeping in a car because the lady that had called the police gave them a description of Kay-Alana's car and the description of Kay-Alana, and she sent them the videos of Kay-Alana. Harris County Sheriff's Department had that information. And when those police officers arrived at that house on Country Hill, they should have recognized, oh, this is the person that was called in earlier. And it doesn't matter how large the area is, that information should have been sent out to every police officer that was out there. Hey, this is going on. You have a woman in a mental crisis in case you run across her. But they didn't do that. They didn't let anybody know.
That's something that I discuss quite frequently on this podcast, is the response from police that seems to be all too common to mental health crises that happen. And I think that this is just such a very clear example of that. And I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. I'm so grateful that you gave your time to come on here, and I want nothing more than to get the word out about this case, about Kay-Alana's story. And to all of our listeners, just please share this as much as possible. Like I said, all of the resources, the missing flyer, all of the resources, share on all of your socials, make TikToks, make social media posts. Rosa, what can people do to assist the most right now? Anything in particular?
We need people telling Kay-Alana's story. We feel like that if we do not get national media coverage, we will not get any coverage. There are people, we talk to people all the time out there on Decker Prairie Rosa Road, and we have been out there for hundreds of hours passing out flyers. And we talk to people all the time that haven't heard anything about it. There are people that don't do social media. There are people that the only news they get is from the newspaper or from the TV news. And if we don't tell her story, that is the main thing, is telling her story. Mm-hmm. And we need people to know that mental illness is not a crime. Kay-Alana was not attempting to commit a crime that morning. She was trying to sleep. She was literally asleep in a stranger's driveway. And from there, she has now been missing 125 days, all because she fell asleep in someone's driveway. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I don't think Harris County cares whether or not they find her or not. They would have you believe that she's Jason Bourne, a barefoot girl in a hot pink dress in the middle of a mental crisis having a cardiac event, and she got away from them. And that aggravates them. They can't let this go. This is their hill they're going to die on. They cannot let it go that they let a mentally ill woman in a hot pink dress, barefooted, get away from them. And they called out a helicopter, and they called out a dog, and they didn't find her. And this is their response.
And that was also including thermal, correct?
Right. They had thermal that morning. And we have reached out to Greg Abbott, the Texas governor. This is not his job. We have reached out to Ken Paxton. We didn't realize that Ken Paxton had his own bunch of stuff going on to get help. We've reached out to every single local elected official. We've talked until we're blue in the face. We've reached out to Ted Cruz. We are reaching out to anybody we can to get help. We finally got, the Texas Rangers are finally helping us. EquiSearch now is back on board after it was over 100 days before Texas EquiSearch got back on board. They're on board now. They have been searching They did 2 searches a week and a half ago, and we had another team from San Antonio come in and use underwater drones to look in the deep sections of Spring Creek. We're literally dying down here trying to find her, trying to get help. And what I tell people is that I have a Kay-Alana size hole in my heart. I have a Kay-Alana size hole in my heart. And the only thing that is going to fill that hole is to find Kay-Alana. I will find her, or I will die trying to find her. She is our goal. How can the sweetest, kindest girl in the whole wide world be treated so cruelly by men that are supposed to protect her? How could she have been trapped like an animal, had her window shattered with a 2x4, and they could care less if she's found? You know, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Department has been trying to help us, the Waller County Sheriff's Department, the Tomball Police Department. Oh my gosh, I love the Tomball Police Department. They have been so kind to us. How can these other police departments be so kind to us and have the Harris County Sheriff's Department treat her like she is worse than an animal? We don't understand it.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Well, just so you know, Harris County touts that they are the number one in mental health care in the state of Texas when it comes to dealing with mental health. They are the number one. Tim Ogg, who is the district attorney for Harris County, has a business card that says mental illness is not a crime, except if your name is Margaret Kay-Alana Turner. Then your mental illness is a crime, and they are going to prosecute you to the fullest.
I just don't understand. I don't understand how people can be so cruel and heartless, especially dealing with grieving parents. I mean, just mere 4 or 5 hours after the incident transpired. I do not understand.
Well, to start out with, they thought that they were dealing with a homeless drug addict. And then they found out that that was untrue. And then they thought that we would go away, that we would quietly go away. We are never going away until she is found. We are never going away. We're going to be searching for our daughter. We're going to be talking about our daughter because she deserves that. Case missing person detective, he said, we've never seen anything like y'all. He said, no family has done as much as y'all have done looking for their missing person. He said, we've never seen anything like this. And I said, how could we not? She is precious. She is kind. She is loving. Why would we not search for her? Why would we not do everything in our power to find her? She is our child. She has a heart condition. We fought her whole life to keep her alive. And then when the people that are supposed to take care of her, the people that you would think would care the most to make sure that she was safe, attacked her and then refused to help, it's too much. It's too much. And we are going to fight for her. And we are going to stand and fight for her. But here's the deal. Even had she been a homeless drug addict, she would have deserved more than what she has received.
Absolutely.
Everybody, I tell everybody, I said, there's a group here in Texas called the Subdudes, and they have a song called Push and Shove. And in it, the lyrics are, even a hobo's got a mama somewhere saying, Lord, have mercy on my baby soul. Every mother that has a child that is missing, their one desire is to find their child. Their one desire. And for the police to act like it doesn't matter, it does. Every single family deserves to know where their child is, and we deserve to know where Kay-Alana is, and they should help us find her.
Which, by the way, to all listeners, I'm going to list the phone numbers to Harris County in the bottom of this episode if you would like to make a phone call.
Please call them. Please call them. Please let them know that Margaret Kay-Alana Turner's family needs help to find her. Please let them know that Margaret Kay-Alana Turner is loved desperately. She is not a homeless drug addict.
And I'm just so incredibly sorry that you're dealing with all of this and going through this. This should never, ever, ever happen.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing to tell Kay-Alana's story. And please, everybody share Kay-Alana's story. Please tell her story, because that's the only thing that will help us find her, is for the right person to hear, oh, there was a girl on Decker Prairie Rose Hill Road that had a hot pink dress on the morning of March the 10th, and she was running for her life. And, oh, I might have picked that girl up. Oh, I saw that girl. Any tip, any lead could help us.
And this entire case breaks my heart, you guys. Again, big thank you to Rosa for coming on to tell Kay-Alana's story. My heart absolutely breaks for this family. I would love to do absolutely anything in my, albeit limited, powers to assist in any way that I can. So I'm asking you listeners, to share the story, subscribe to the Facebook page. First and foremost, go to Updates for Kay-Alana Turner and subscribe to the Facebook page. Let's see if we can get the word out, guys. It's just absolutely devastating. So that's it for this episode, guys. Again, thank you for listening. As always, check us out at wesawthedevil.com. Follow us on all social media channels so you can stay up to date with cases like this. And other than that, I will see you next week. Until next crime.